It goes without saying that the F1 world would be disheartened to see Mick Schumacher leaving Haas and having no other seat available for him from 2023 onward due to the fact that he'll likely be replaced with Nico Hulkenberg. Although Mick scored his first career points in 2022, that didn't seem to be enough for Haas to keep him, as the team has been bashed for their thoughts of replacing him. While nothing is official yet, rumours are that Nico will replace his younger compatriot, and while many thought that this would be game over for Mick, there is still one last straw that the young driver can hold on to for the 2023 season. Now, Mick's 2022 season hasn't been quite the one he expected after the Austrian GP. In 2 consecutive weekends, Mick was able to score points by finishing P8 and P6 in Silverstone and Austria respectively. But after that, points have become yet again a dry season for him. On top of that, Mick caused 2 crashes that have made the team think in another direction, something that Gene Haas, the owner of the team, spoke about earlier this month. We're just waiting. We need Mick to bring some points, and we're trying to give him as much time as possible to see what he can do. If he wants to stay with us, he's got to show us that he can score some points. That's what we're waiting for, said Gene, who then continued to speak about Mick's crashes and his inconsistency throughout the 2022 season. In this sport, being kind of a rookie driver, the sport just doesn't allow it. It's just too expensive. If you make any mistakes in driver selection, strategy or tyre selection, it's costing you millions of dollars. I think Mick has got a lot of potential, but he costs a fortune, and he's wrecked a lot of cars that have cost us a lot of money that we just don't have. Now, if you bring us some points and you're Verstappen and you wreck cars, we'll deal with it. But when you're in the back and you wreck cars, that's very difficult. If he wins the next one, he's in. Somewhere in between, there's a grey area. However, it seems like the waiting is finally over, as Steiner announced that the team already made a decision, and we're yet to see what this decision is in the following period. But the fact that Steiner said it's not anymore up to the point whether or not Mick will score points points to the fact that Haas are likely to choose a veteran for the vacant spot in Haas. Now, this is something that Helmut Marko has also spoken about, adding that whenever a driver receives the amount of bashing that Mick publicly received from his team, just goes to show that the needed chemistry is not there and the driver in question will be replaced. When a team publicly criticises a driver, Schumacher, so massively, as was sometimes the case, it shows there are no signs of trust. The situation at Haas is that they have an experienced driver in Magnussen, and if there was a great up-and-coming talent, I would bet on him. But I don't see anyone at the moment who would have these requirements, and from a team perspective, there is a lot of money at stake in the Constructors' World Championship. Whether you're 10th or 8th, that's a difference of millions of dollars. I assume Haas will bet on a veteran. So, what is Mick's last chance? We'll start with the least expecting one, and that is his seat in Williams. The British team already announced the signing of Logan Sargeant and is doing everything that it's in its power to secure enough points in the super license of Sargeant so that he can drive for them from 2023 onwards. In order for Sargeant to compete in Williams and in F1, he needs to finish in the top 8 places in order to obtain his super license. However, he would have to perform 1 clean free practice session in Abu Dhabi if he wants to receive 1 more point on his super license, otherwise he'd have to finish in the top 7. Sargeant is currently P3, but his place is threatened by 6 drivers below him, meaning that he can finish all the way down to P9. Now, let's say that this indeed happens, and Sargeant, one of the best drivers in Formula 2 as we speak, doesn't get his super license. Jos Capito, the principal of Williams, has this option in his head, saying that the team will look at other options as Sargeant's replacement if the young American doesn't fulfill the needs. If it doesn't work out with a super license for Sargeant, everyone who has experience and a super license is an option. We've dealt with all those who come into question, but it hasn't yet been decided whether Mick will stay at Haas or not. It will not have been possible to do that yet. On top of that, Capito spoke about why the team chose Sargeant, a young talent, instead of another candidate, for example Mick, who's not just young but an experienced driver as well. First and foremost, his development. If you compare his qualifying results, in particular with those of his teammates, he was always better in qualifying, even against Piastri. That shows that his speed is there. He has to learn. He made the breakthrough. He was really good as a rookie in Formula 2, won races and was always good in qualifying. When he's with us in the academy, he also has to get to the Formula 1 quickly and show what he can do and learn there. Therefore, Mick can always hope that Sargeant's last race in Abu Dhabi will go horribly wrong for the American and he can take his spot in Williams. This is a sport in which the strong eat the weak and there isn't a place for compassion. After all, this is a principle to which Mick will likely lose his seat, which is why he has no place for empathy for other drivers. Now, there's always the opportunity that Haas will announce Mick as the second driver alongside Magnussen for the next season. After all, he did climb 8 places at the sprint race and was able to finish P12 after qualifying P20. However, this was massively overshadowed by the fact that his teammate earned his maiden pole position and was able to get 1 point out of the sprint race. Magnussen crashed in the race with Ricciardo, and when it mattered most, Mick wasn't able to score points for Haas. This is something that veterans can likely do, which is why the team could look forward to signing Hulkenberg, who is a very consistent driver and can score points weekend after weekend. Haas isn't a car that can bring wins or podium finishes just yet, but it is a car that can finish regularly in the points, something that Aston Martin has been able to unlock in the second half of the season and is now fighting with Alfa Romeo for P6 in the Constructors' Championship. One interesting turn of events that Mick's uncle, Ralf Schumacher, believes could happen is Magnussen being replaced by Hulkenberg due to the fact that apart from Austin, Magnussen hasn't been better than his teammate. However, this was a statement made prior to the Brazilian GP, and it's very unlikely that Haas are going to let go of their only pole sitter in the team's history. Ex-F1 driver Hans-Joachim Stuck believes that Mick's spot is still in F1, and Steiner would be a fool to let go of a young driver just to replace him with a veteran. When talking about Mick's future, Hans said, "Unfortunately for Mick, it's still too early for Audi because they will not be there until 2026. If he's not confirmed at Haas, he will no longer be in Formula 1. This is very clear. I also say very clearly that Mick belongs in Formula 1. A young driver sometimes has to make some mistakes because he doesn't know what the limit of the car is." Günther Steiner was wrong to unnecessarily put Mick under pressure with useless criticism. It's crazy to have a seat and not confirm Mick. If he gets the right car, he'll be great in the future. Well, with that being said, it's evident that Mick is going to have a hard time keeping the Haas seat in the future. Magnussen and Hulkenberg did have their own fights and conflicts back in 2017, but it seems like this is in the past and they're ready to move on. Although Magnussen said that he doesn't mind who'll be his teammate, he did say that Mick is doing a great job and he shouldn't be replaced if it were up to him. So, what do you think is next for the young German driver? Do you think they'll have a legitimate shot at the Williams seat if he's not confirmed by Haas, and if Sargeant fails to obtain his super license? Let us know in the comments below.